All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name's Andy Cormier. I'm the channel chief here at Syncro. And today we're going to be talking about Syncro's new partnership with ThreatDown. Now, part of my role here at Syncro is to find other vendors in the space to bring into our marketplace for partnerships like this one. Vendors that would enhance the output of our customers by bringing more and more of your day-to-day into Syncro. Now, prior to Syncro, I owned a fairly large MSP myself. So one of the things that often attracts me to other vendors in the space, at least initially, is when they also speak MSP as well. That's when you know they get it. And if you've never owned an MSP, it's sometimes difficult to understand what that really means. But for all the MSPs in the room, ThreatDown is MSP centric at their very core. They understand your business and they built the product exclusively with your business in mind. That's why I'm personally so excited about this partnership. So earlier this month, we launched phase one of our ThreatDown integration. This allows customers to provision new ThreatDown accounts right from within their Syncro instances. And it also allows existing ThreatDown customers to migrate their instances over to Syncro to take advantage of our integration. Another cornerstone of Syncro's marketplace is something that we launched earlier this year that we're calling universal billing. When you purchase your licensing through Syncro, this allows you to take that usage data from a vendor, map it to applicable customers in Syncro, and that usage data will flow into your recurring invoices on a daily basis. So no more missed billing, no more underbilling, and no more manual billing. You literally set it once and forget it. The quantities automatically update themselves each day, and your invoices will adjust themselves accordingly. Now, this functionality is coming to all of our marketplace vendors as we move forward, and it will be coming to all new marketplace vendors as well, and ThreatDown is no exception. So that functionality was already released for ThreatDown earlier this month, so it's available as of today. Now, phase two of this integration will be launching later this year or early next year, and that is bringing in policy-based deployments and alerting into Syncro, though we do have script-based deployments in the meantime, and that's been made available today. Now, when I was talking prior about a company being able to speak MSP and the importance of that, it doesn't mean just the product itself. It means how they do business as well. For example, many vendors out there expect you, the MSP, to contact the reseller with support issues instead of going directly to them. The reseller is then supposed to, liaison that support request between you and the vendor. And as an MSP, all I hear is more time getting wasted on nonsense bullshit and the very real possibility of my customer getting super pissed off while we all wait. So when you spin up ThreatDown through Syncro, all technical support is between you and ThreatDown directly. In fact, you are able to open and respond to tickets right inside of your ThreatDown portal. That also means selling you the product in a clear and transparent way. There's no minimums to meet here. There is no time-based commitments to be locked into either. At the end of the month, you pay for what you use, nothing more, nothing less. Those license counts go up or down the following month. That's what you pay the following month. It's that simple. Pricing can be found right inside the ThreatDown app card in the app center of your Syncro instance. So that's our new partnership in a nutshell. Now, I'm sure everybody's eager to see what ThreatDown can do, and we're just about to get to that. I did want to mention first that we are planning to save about 15 minutes or so in the end for some audience Q&A, but you don't have to wait till the end to ask your question. So if something comes up while we're walking the platform, please use the Q&A in Zoom. That's where we're going to be picking up your questions in the end. All right, so time for some introductions. First up, and I think he is one of the few people I've ever met in the space that speaks MSP even better than I do, is none other than Brian Kane. Brian, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll have Alan intro himself as well, and then from there, it's your show, guys.
Absolutely. So yeah, Brian Kane, VP of MSP channels. You can call it a lot of things, but ultimately, Malwarebytes hired me to come in and do exactly what Andy just talked about, and that is speak MSP. So I've opened 40 MSPs in my day. So I've been around the block a few times. I still own MSPs. So they allowed me to do that so I can stay relevant, stay into it, and again, purposefully steer what we're doing to MSPs for MSPs. So I'll talk a little more about that as we go on, but I'll go ahead and hand it over to Alan.
Hi guys, yeah, Alan Radomsky here. I'm the VP of Solution Engineering at ThreatDown. To be honest with you, I think the partnership that my team has with with both Brian's team and even with Andy is very relevant. We bring the technical aspects of the solution to you guys as MSPs and hopefully to other customers as well. So hopefully today I'll take you through the actual one view console, which you'll get a little bit more view into later. Just showing you, how easy it is to use and what benefits it has for you as an MSP.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan. All right, so I will be one of the first people to say that I hate PowerPoint slides. So I literally am going to walk you guys through 3 or 4 things just to give you a high level on ThreatDown, and then those are going to go away because I hate slides. So let me share my screen really quick. So I'm just going to give a quick high level here. Everyone in this room has probably heard of Malwarebytes. All right, I'm not saying a new word that none of you have heard. You've probably leveraged our free tool. You've leveraged our IR, probably used TechBench. I would say most MSPs, break-fix orgs, and everyone back in the day have all used TechBench over the years. Everyone comes up to me and they're like, hey, that's that tool that I used when I got infected and nothing else cleaned it off. So that's really where it came from. So what we decided to do was we said, hey, we're going to take this great software. We built Malwarebytes for Business, which is awesome. And we said, how can we evolve this and truly separate and build a focus on the B2B side of the business? Then I would also say we took that a step further, and you'll see this as Alan dives into the demo. We truly have a separate platform, one that we use for what I would call like reseller customers, people that use that. And then we have one that is truly purpose-built and designed for MSP, for multi-tenancy. From everything from the reports, the dashboard, how it manages our products, it's absolutely key and built for that. So for everyone that wonders where the ThreatDown name came from, that is what it is. It truly is the evolution of the B2B business. So I'm going to run through that because we don't need to have all the fancy animations. But why does this matter? As I watch the MSP business continue to absolutely skyrocket, here's the reason why. Businesses aren't hiring sysadmins anymore. All right. And if they did hire a sysadmin, well, they'd still have to hire 3 or 4 other people just to try to cover the spread. All right. This is why MSPs are valuable. Okay. 13% year-over-year increase on ransomware attacks. Guys, it's the worst year ever, and it continues to get worse. All right. When do threats happen? Well, they happen when everyone is sleeping. All right. They do. They happen 24/7. Threats don't sit around and go, better make sure I get that in before the 5 o'clock bell. And as antiquated as it sounds, I know you guys see this every day. I think Andy and I were talking about this last week a little bit, but like, people are still using Windows XP. We're still seeing RDP attacks. This stuff still exists. It's not like this thing that just we got past and moved forward with. It's still there and it happens. This is why MSPs are critical. Why is this hard? All right. AI is making things much harder. The thing I like to say, AI makes stupid people smarter. All right. That means the people on the bad side, all right, have more tools to become more dangerous. Right. You don't have to be, Neo, from the Matrix to know how to hack and do things. Anyone can jump into ChatGPT and figure stuff out. Right. Ransomware moves fast. Living off the land attacks, man, they're still dominating. This stuff still happens. As an MSP owner, okay, I'm speaking to you from experience. I live this world. I do this every day. Okay, what's happening? One, the expectation for what we do is continuing to get higher. All right, there's a lot of pressure to obviously keep costs down, to be the cheap one. There's 4 or 5 competitors out there. This makes it difficult. And then, most importantly, our technicians. Our technicians are absolutely overloaded. They're trying to balance everything. They're doing tier 1 help desk. They're dealing with escalations. They're managing 7 different dashboards. And we're going to talk about more later how this integration and working with Syncro is truly built to help you guys. But this is hard. This is difficult to do, and it's difficult to do well. So we're going to talk to you guys primarily about how do we make this easier? So Alan's going to walk you through this platform. You'll see here that, again, OneView, it is truly designed to bring these things together. Not just, hey, here's a plugin here, here's a plugin here. The tools actually come together and truly work together to create a simplified approach. I'm not going to dive deep into everything, but what I will show is our endpoint detection and response. It's one single agent. It is very, very low system resources, and it is absolutely a strong layer of protection. Okay, Alan will talk a little bit more about that when we dive into it. Again, same thing. We've got our AV, our EDR. We've got a bunch of different add-ons, again, that all come together in the same place, tied into our security advisor. And then at the end of this, we'll start to shift the focus here. It all pulls into our MDR and how that really works and is there to support MSPs dealing with the 24/7, dealing with, how do I handle all of this with a small group of technicians? We're here to help, and we're here to make it, again, easy, efficient, and affordable. So, Alan, I'll hand this over to you so they can actually see the platform and you can show them some of the cool stuff.
Perfect. Before I start, I just wanted to go through it, just an understanding of, like what Brian said earlier on. Why did we put this solution together? We put this solution together to help MSPs to be able to manage multiple customers in one platform, to make sure that we've got clear multi-tenancy between our customers, but still have the ability to work at a top level. For example, if I'm an MSP and I'm managing multiple customers, I don't need to be focusing on just one customer at a time and constantly working that way. One thing I need to be able to do is have a look at my state and be able to manage it properly, whether it is dealing with an outbreak, whether it's dealing with specific tasks, etc. And this is what our OneView platform does for us. So I'm going to start off here just from when you log on. What you've got is you've got your dashboard. Now, within the dashboard, the most important thing is the amount of information that you want. The great thing about this is you can have loads of information, as you can see over here, right? All different bits and pieces, from things like what vulnerabilities I have to the different types of operating systems that I'm running, which machines are unprotected, which machines are still pending protection, etc. But also what you've got is things like what active detections we've had, what we're seeing. But the one thing I love about this, and as a someone that manages a console and constantly works within the console, is this section here, which I call my action center. What we do is we try and make it as easy as possible for you guys to be able to say, right, I log in on a daily basis. Do I want to spend hours and hours and hours of time sitting in a console the whole day? No, we don't. So what we do is we give you this ability to see, what do I need to do to action now? I go in, do those actions, and deal with it there and then. Then I log off and I leave it. And that's what we want to make sure, is that you're not spending hours and hours and hours in a console trying to fix problems. And this is our action center over here. As you can see, for example, I see one machine, I need to restart. It's on one site. I click on that. It then filters down to that one machine. I can then go in, select that machine, action a restart on that endpoint, done. Job done. No worries, no issues, and move on to the next task that I need to do. For example, I might come in here and say, right, we've got 12 machines that haven't had a scan done on them, but they're over 4 different sites. So it's not just, I'm specifically working on one site. It's over 4 sites. So I know I need to action this for all my customers. I can come in here, I can select all, and I can go actions and scan and report to scan and quarantine. With simple few clicks, get the job done, and then move on. And as you can see, one thing that we do is in the different pages, we keep that action center up at the top here to tell you what to do next. So rather than going back to the dashboard, I can come in and say, look, I've got 7 machines that have got suspicious activity. I can go in there and then start investigating that suspicious activity, do a few actions, and resolve the issues. So this is one thing that we find quite useful for MSPs, making it a lot easier, user-friendly, to be able to just go do the normal tasks in a much quicker way. Now, that's great, and it's all the information that you need. We also then go in and give you all the licensing information that you want to see that you're managing throughout your site. So we've got all the details of the different types of solutions that you're running, as well as information about which sites you have deployed and not deployed, etc. You might have a couple of trials that you're doing with your customer, which trials are still running. So at least you can see all this information from one single dashboard. Now,
Hey, Alan, can I jump in
sure,
for 1 second?
with pleasure.
I wanted to highlight one thing you just showed. So something that is really effective and that our MSPs love is the ability for you to create a new site and spin up a trial for your customer within that site. So you don't start paying on those trial licenses. You can truly run a trial right there and manage it in one spot. Turn it on, turn it off, or convert it to paid when you're done. So I just wanted to highlight that because that's something that MSPs love. I would say that our conversion rate on trials internally for MSPs is in the high 70s, like low 80s. So the trials make it easy for them to create that experience, get it onboarded and moved without having to pay in the beginning if there's any overlap with another product or something along those lines.
Yeah, and that's another really good example of selling and building a product like an MSP would expect to consume. And it's not you have a 30-day trial on the whole account. You can be using the account for years. If you have a new customer, great. There's a trial just for that customer. That's honestly, it's the way it should be. I don't understand why most platforms don't do it that way. It's so dumb.
Which leads me into what I was going to talk about, right? Which is sites. This is the area where you are going and creating your different sites, which is pretty much your customers. Now, one thing that you do have, and I'm going to say another thing that probably Brian forgot about there, besides the trials, right? What you could do is, as an MSP, you also have a NFR license, which is your site, right? That you have to use for demonstrations to your customers, but also the ability to test and work with our tools within your environment, which is also great. And to be honest, to set up a site is a few simple steps. All you have to do is come in here, give your company name of your customer that you're doing, first name, last name, email address. Excuse my typing. I'll just do this quickly so that I can get past quickly. What you've got the ability here to do is also say, you know what, I've agreed with my customer an end date of my contract with them. I need to be reminded when that contract ends so that I can renew with them. I can come in here and say, right, I'm doing a year's contract or a month's contract or whatever. I can put in an end date of that, and then that's when my site is being created till. When you go into the subscriptions, this is what I was talking to you about. You have the ability to say, right, I'm going to give my customer a 15-day trial, a 30-day trial, or I can create my site, which is my NFR license, and I can use that for my deployment and testing. Now, great thing about this is we have the ability to cover all multitude of different products. We've got stuff for workstations, for servers, and even for mobile. You choose what you are applying to that site. So let's say I only want to do workstations and servers. I can take off mobile. You choose your core protection level, whether it be EDR or endpoint protection. And then over here, you choose how many licenses of each. So if you've got 10 licenses of workstations and just say 2 or 3 licenses of servers, that's what you're building for that specific site. What you've also got is our services. And this is very important because I think Brian said earlier on, we have one single agent. When you deploy this one single agent, it doesn't matter what solutions you've decided to use for that. You are deploying the exact same agent, a small, lightweight agent. So if you wanted to do MDR services, if you wanted to do any add-ons like, let's say, vulnerability assessment or app lock or any of that, it's very, very easy to just switch it on via a policy, and there's no redeployment of a new agent, a new piece of software to the endpoint. It's already deployed with the single agent. So you can go in, choose what services you want, choose what add-ons you want to do. So for example, if you want DNS filtering, you can apply that and you can choose, I want it for 5 licenses because I want it for my workstations, right? And then from there, what you've got the ability to do is click on next, finish your setup, and you've got a site built for you. From then, you've got the ability to then go out and get that site going. Now, before I go down that deployment route, I just wanted to show you a site that is already been running. So the good thing is we look at a site. Let's have a look at my bread and butter site. And we've got this fantastic, what we call Security Advisor. From Security Advisor, it tells us how good our security score is with that site. So as you can see at the moment, mine's 81%, which is quite good. But you can see the different areas where I need a bit more help. For example, under policies, it's 77%. So, and I know why. I've got some policies where I've, for example, disabled tamper protection because it's a testing environment. So, what it's done is it's brought down my policy saying that you should have tamper protection enabled. Things like that. You've also got deployment, detection, EDR. If you've got any detections that have been detected and haven't been dealt with, it will then, of course, bring down your score. But what this does is this gives you a good overview for your each customer to see where they are at. So if you've got a site that is a low score, then what you can do is go and concentrate on that site, get it to a nice high score, and then, as I said, sit back, relax, and let it do its job. You do have other areas that you can look, like what subscriptions you've added to them, what users you've got connected to that, and again, if they are using managed services or the information around managed services. What you can do is you can always come in and edit the site if you wanted to. So for example, if we've decided we haven't got any add-ons and now the customer says, you know what, we want DNS filtering, I can go in, manage their subscription, and go in and add DNS filtering to their subscription. And as I think it was Andy said in the beginning, the great thing about this is whatever you deploy and whatever you're using is what you pay for. So even though I've created a site that's got 10 licenses of the product, until I deploy that first machine and that machine is talking back to the console, that's when I start paying for that endpoint and for that subscription for those specific things. So I think it just gives you the flexibility to manage your sites, to go through, make sure that you do the right trials for your customers, and to see everything in a total view. Just moving on that. So before I go on to the endpoint side, I just wanted to talk about the deployment, right? And I think, Andy, you said sort of from the phase 2 element with the Syncro, there will be a deployment part of it. But the one thing we also try and do is give people flexibility on what they want, how they want to deploy. So if I go to my download center, what I've got the ability to do is say, right, who am I deploying to? So I've just created a new site called Unicorn Factory, right? I can click on that. And what it will do is it will build a unique deployment agent for that specific site. Once I've got that, I can then go in and choose what do I want to deploy for? Do I want to deploy for Mac, for Windows, for iOS, Chrome, Android, etc., Linux, whatever you want, you've got the ability to then go in, get your package, and use any third-party tools if need be to deploy that or deploy it manually. We've also got areas like this, which is link sharing. I want to send Andy a link via email and say, Andy, please click on this link and install your agent on your endpoint. You've got those ability, that ability to do that as well. And then when using third-party tools, we all know that we want to put in command line to be able to deploy in a silent mode, etc. What we've got is under the advanced tools, we can then go in and choose out things, and it will actually give you the setup command line to use copy paste, stick into, let's say it's a group policy or an SCCM deployment or whatever the case may be, to go out and deploy this with ease. And to be honest with you, everyone goes, right, lightweight agent. Everyone talks about a lightweight agent. Just to show you, if I go and download this agent, just as an example, right, you'll see the size of this agent is 79 megs, right? When last, and I'll be honest with you, have you seen a deployment of a agent that's that small? Right. I mean, sorry to say, but I've seen deployment of agents, which we're talking about 250 meg, right? And then, of course, when it installs, it creates, 10, 7, or 12 different services. The one thing that you see with the ThreatDown agent is it's one agent, and the maximum amount of services you will run if you're running all our products is 3 services. And those C services are running at a really, really low resource on the endpoint. So the one thing that you find is not only are you not getting those complaints from customers going, oh, it's slowing down my machine. What you've got is you've got the ease of use, single agent, and you don't have to worry about deploying anything. So hopefully that gives you an understanding of why we've done this. We've done this to make sure that customers like yourself have got the ability to go to their customers and not have the worry about resource utilization, have the worry about multiple deployments, etc. It's just simple and easy for you to deploy, get up off the road, and start working and protecting your customers. So on that note, I just wanted to just talk about things that you can do as an administrator. Well, when you're administering your console and working with a multitude of customers, you got to be able to make sure, can I have the right exclusions in place for specific customers? We give you the ability to be specific or global, right? So if I want to do a global exclusion across the board, I can do that. If I want to be specific for a specific site, I can create exclusions for that. When it comes to policies, same thing. We can have a global set policy, or we can have specific policies for specific customers of ours, right? Makes it a lot easier to maintain, and also shows you where those policies are applied to, which gives you that function of saying, you know what, if I go and change a policy, I know where it's going to change through all my customers. That's one thing I find quite useful. Other 2 most important things that I find are these 2: notifications and reporting. Right. At the end of the day, we want to be able to report on our customers, how healthy they are, what they're doing, how much malware have they been detected, how much have we protected them against. We've got that ability to run reports, schedule those reports, have them automatically email us at the end of the day, or once a day, once a week, once a month, all the information that we need to be able to run our business more efficiently. Same with notifications. We want to be notified when there is a problem that we really need to go in action, rather than just having to come in and try find problems. You've got notifications that can notify you on very broad areas, but also very specific areas. So if I see a suspicious activity that is a critical suspicious activity that's got this specific thing, I can then notify myself to go in and have a look and figure that out. So this is where we find it a lot easier for organizations like yourself to go out and manage their solution more effectively and more efficiently. So besides other things like schedules and all that, you've got all of that built in. Just before I go on to the last thing, I want to just talk about our endpoints, because this is quite important. As you can see, I'm seeing all my endpoints for all my sites. Now I can go in and just straight at the top here say, you know what, I'm working just with bread and butter bakery, select that, and what it will do is it will filter only for that specific site. Then I can go in and work on that. But I don't have to, because what I can do is work on everyone, like we saw earlier on when I see scans needed. There's 12 scans needed, but it's over 7 sites. I can still go in and action that. And on top of that, we give everyone, we make it simple, but we also give you detail, which is so important. So for example, over here, I can come into an endpoint. I can see all the details of that endpoint, just even to the degree of how much free disk space have they got on their drive, how much memory they've got, all the different agents that plugins that they're running, all the detections that we've seen in their detection log, all the apps that we've blocked, all the software that they've got installed. We can see all of that through the detail if we want to. But that's to be honest with you, it's only if you want to have a deeper look into it. Otherwise, we make it a lot more easier for you to just manage your endpoints in a much more efficient way.
So, Alan, if I could
Sure.
chime in, this is one of those things as I've sat down with other vendors and talked about their UX, when it came to designing this and building this, one of those things, sitting in a room with a whiteboard is, I said, MSPs, while we definitely think site to site, at the end of the day, when you're troubleshooting, when you've got technicians, when you've got tickets, and you're trying to do your overall maintenance, you're thinking about your entire group. So the ability to come to one place and be able to say, great, like Alan said, I have 15 computers that need scanned. Great. I don't care which site they're in. I need to just be able to action this all at once. Being able to do that is absolutely huge because a lot of times in different instances with different softwares, we end up still having to like either go into a site or go into a container of sorts to be able to do the actual action. You may have visibility in the dashboard that, hey, something's going on, but to provide that action, you have to like drill down and then drop into it. We really wanted that to be there on the surface. Again, it speaks to that, this is how MSPs work. And what I'll also touch on is a lot of these features or UX or design things that you see, these came from feedback from MSPs. So that's the other thing is we don't have this closed door policy. If you have recommendations, if you have questions, if there's things that you'd like to see, a lot of the things you see in the portal today are the result of MSPs reaching out and saying, hey, we'd love to see this report this way, or we'd love to be able to do this, and here's the reason why. Because a lot of times, if you want it, there's a good chance someone else wants it too. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, on that note, I've seen so many of these requests coming in, and it's just great because we're learning from MSPs and we're putting stuff in that MSPs want to see, not just randomly, adding in features and functions for the fun of it. So I think that's great. So the next thing I wanted to just talk about, because this again, in Brian's slides, he spoke about ransomware, right? Ransomware, is a massive thing at the moment. Now, it's not just ransomware; it's the amount of attacks and these complex attacks and the attacks that are coming in. Like Brian said, AI is changing the way the attackers work, and they're finding more and more ways of getting around normal protection mechanisms. Now, I would be lying to you if I said, what, our protection that we have is going to stop all malware coming into your environment or your customer's environment, because it's not true, right? We can't. There are new aged malware that gets through. And the most important thing here is, if it does get through, how do I deal with it? And can I deal with it quick, fast, and to the point? And this is important because, I've seen so many organizations being hit by a piece of ransomware or another piece of malicious software that has brought down the organization to right down to their toes, to be able to not work for hours and hours on end. Now, what we call this is suspicious activity. And the reason why we say it's suspicious activity is because we've unable to protect it because we haven't identified it as being malicious. But we've seen certain suspicious behavior that has happened, and we believe it's time for you to go in and look and make sure, is this malicious or is this not? And we will give you all the bits and pieces around it. So if you look over here, I've got quite a few different suspicious activities happening in here. Let's have a look at this top one here. As you can see, one thing we try and give you is as much detail as possible so that you can make that determination, is this malicious or is this not? So we start off with a bit of a summary at the top here. We also then move into a timeline showing you exactly what's happening. As you can see, these things like defense, evasion, command and control, all of that, those are linked to MITRE tactics and techniques, which is important when we talk about EDR. And with this, it tells you exactly what's happened from a timeline perspective. But not only that, we give you all the detail over here. For example, here's some Tor activity that's going on. Not only are we showing you that it's a command and control, based on MITRE tactics and techniques, but we're giving you the actual raw code that we've seen happening to tell you what's actually happened in that Tor activity. We've got other areas like misleading file extension. We've picked this up as someone masquerading a file. As you can see, it's called vacation.jpeg.exe. So guess what happens? Someone's not showing the normal extensions, but it looks like vacation.jpg. So what does someone do? They double click on it. It's another piece of malware, and that's it, right? So we've identified all these elements that tell us this is possibly malicious. But if we go down a little bit further down here, what's most important is this. This is the path graph. So this is from the start of this process running. So if you click on the first process, you can see certain things that it's doing. It gives you all the information, the MD5 hash, but you can see it's written 21 files and it's changed 8 registry keys. You can click on those and it will then show you the registry keys that were changed. And some of them are disabling Excel protection, disabling Word protection, disabling desktop, etc. But not only that, if we break down and we look at, there's another dropped file over here, we can see the sort of rename element happening here. And I go in that and I say, right, what is it telling me? So it's telling me that I had these files originally called movie.mp4. So files that are on my machine. And what's happened to them? Well, what's happened to them is, let me just open this. Is you'll see there's a extension on them now, and that's encrypted. Basically, ransomware activity. And the great thing about this is, people will go, oh my, we've just been hit by a piece of ransomware. What does that mean? This means we have to probably get the machines in, re-image the machines, try and find a backup that's, if we're lucky, 24 hours old, maybe, in some cases 48, but even more. And then we're going to have to re-image it, try and get all the backups together, lose data, etc. And maybe after a couple of days, 3-4 days, we finally get the end users back up and running. With us, you don't have to worry about it, because what we've got built into our technology in EDR, in our remediation, is ransomware rollback. And this is fantastic. And it's actually quite simple. If you think about it, before these files on the left here were encrypted, we've taken a backup of that file on the endpoint and secured it so that it can't get encrypted. What we've then done is, once you go in and we'll hold that as well for 7 days. So we'll actually hold that files for 7 days. When you go and remediate, what it will do is it will say, hold on a sec, we've seen this ransomware activity. What we'll do is we'll just delete these ones that are in the right-hand column. We'll go to the backup, pull the ones that we've backed up, put them back into place. And that is just before the attack happened. Therefore, we're talking about maybe a couple of hours and the endpoints are all back up and running, infection all deleted and removed, as well as the rollback happening, and no encrypted files, which is a godsend for some people, because you don't want to be going through a ransomware attack. But as you can see in this thing here, the remediation is so important. We've seen every single thing that's happened, even to the degree, I mean, here's a NS lookup. Not that we can remediate against an NS lookup, but we know what they're doing. They're going and they're doing a lookup to see if they can get communication. But we see every single thing that they've done here. So when it comes to remediation, we know exactly what to remediate. If there's a registry that's been changed, we change it back. If it's a file that's been deleted, we put it back. If it's a file that's been dumped, we delete it. And this is what we do with regards to our remediation. Going back to what Malwarebytes was always known for, is this clean, good remediation. And I think this is so important, especially for our customers. But from an MSP perspective, it puts your mind at rest, knowing that if one of your customers get hit by a piece of ransomware, you know what, we don't have to panic. We'll get over it. Just give us a couple of hours and we'll be over it. It's superb for you. Now, on that note, the one thing that we have found is that depending on MSPs, sometimes we don't have a lot of resource at the MSP to go through these, look at the details, identify whether they're malicious and all that. And that's where our MDR service comes in. We've got a team of MDR analysts across the globe working 24/7, monitoring these specific alerts, going in, identifying whether they are malicious by utilizing their expertise and other third-party tools and that to determine if something is malicious. But most importantly, being able to react and in the right time, whether it's midnight, whether it's 2 a.m. in the morning, they're able to react by either isolating endpoints or even going in, remediating and completely getting those machines back to normal. And you probably sleeping and wake up in the morning and it's all it's all done for you. So it's really a really good thing for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. This is great. And again, I know I'll hand this back over to Andy, but one of the things is if you guys ever want to see a closer up demo of this, want to spend some time with our SEs, we're more than happy to sit down with you, talk to you about your business and walk you through the specifics of all of this as well. So Andy, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. That was awesome. And we actually have a couple follow-up questions I'll get to here in a minute, specifically about the EDR rollbacks. That was seems to be a big hit.
Sure.
Yeah, so like I said, next up we're going to do some audience Q&A, but Brian, I figured I would ask you a couple questions on everybody's behalf here while I got you.
Sure.
I know I know I talked a lot of shit in the beginning about the importance of being, an MSP first product and an MSP first business. And in some cases, it's super easy to spot the differences. Like, for example, if you go on Syncro's pricing page, what do you see? You actually see pricing. Like, that's super rare in the space for some reason for RMMs and PSAs, so not many do it. So it's kind of like the difference between operating in the space versus just living, within the space. So I'm kind of curious. I know you guys have seen like rapid growth in the past couple of years, and how much of it do you attribute to the fact that you did adopt that MSP first mentality? Like, you guys really operate that at every level.
I truly, just because I see it day to day, I think it's a huge part of it. Because, everyone hears the word like the channel, and so channel is typically thought about like, VARs, resellers, and then them selling into the customers, disty is mixed into that. Well, I'll absolutely say over the last few years, and I was, Andy, you and I were both at MSP Summit, and I did an interview and I walked away with someone else, and I remember saying, like, I was literally walking like 20 feet, and I had like 5 different people that came up to me and they said hi, and they knew the person I was walking with, and I said, so this is the MSP channel. And it's true, the MSP channel is growing, and I think it's vendors coming together with partners and working with the tools that exist out there, things like RMM platforms, things like marketplaces, things like that, and especially the ones who brought that together and building more of a transparent, place for us to all go and work together and transact together. And so it's taken some time. Again, no one's perfect at it, but I definitely think for us, MSP has changed the game with that focus on MSP and the right partners and building it to, kind of the things that they're looking to see and want. That's what's made the change.
Yeah, no, 100%. One of the things that I hear from customers, I'm sure you do as well, like I literally feel this question daily, is how confused a lot of them are in terms of, operating within today's security landscape. Like, for example, I could put a security system on my house. That's logical form of protection. Now, I live in Texas, so we obviously have other means of protection. But even then, if you talk to some security vendors, you and I have just been hacked 25 times over by the time we're off this webinar. It's all gloom and doom. So does this mean I should contract out, Navy SEALs to patrol the perimeter of my home 24/7? Do I need helicopters and all that nonsense flying overhead all day long? No one's really sure how much is enough. And more importantly, how much is enough, like, for my specific customers to meet their specific needs. My MSP didn't have Fortune 100 customers, so I don't really give a shit what those people are doing. Like, I don't. Didn't apply to my specific customers. I mean, the root causes might, but the overarching security didn't necessarily. And so, how is ThreatDown helping simplify that landscape for MSPs while you're also ensuring that you guys are still staying ahead of this crazy evolving security landscape?
No, it's a great question. So I think there's a balance. I think it doesn't fully sway one way or the other, but I'll give an example. Um, this was probably a little over a year ago. I was at IT Nation. I think there were, don't quote me on this, probably like 210 or 215 vendors at IT Nation. And I was talking to an MSP owner that we had just had a conversation about they were struggling with some things and just wanted some help. So I talked to him and I was like, he was like, this is the example of there are 215 vendors here. All of them say that they can help me. Who do I work with? How do I make choices? How do I build my tech stack? Like, how do I do this? Well, the short answer is number one, if any one of those vendors says that they solve everything for you, run away, go the other direction. Okay, it takes a layered approach. So I think as an MSP, what you're thinking about is okay, what is the least amount of layers that I can apply to still accomplish as much as possible? One of the things I typically lean towards is like things like CIS. So if you go look at CIS, there's really three layers. There's IG1, IG2, IG3. So what I talk about a lot of times is use IG1 as kind of like a baseline. That's your baseline. If you're covering those things and you built a stack around that, you're doing pretty good. Now, you're absolutely right. So Andy, you might say, great, I have, 50 MSP customers, but three of them might be like maybe hospitals or small medical. Okay, great. Then for those particular three, you may have to step it up. You're going to have to look at another lens, make sure that you're lining up with compliance, things like that. But for the most part, it really comes down to create your baseline. One of the hardest lessons I learned as an MSP was to say no to people. I was that guy like trying to get whatever I could. I'm out there, just trying to win business. And you get those customers that are like, well, we have this installed, we have this installed, we have this installed, and we have this installed. So if you can just manage all of that, that would be great. And I was like, yeah, so I can't do that. I have 5 technicians and they are not trained in 70 different products. So
Yeah.
here's the products I use. This is my setup. You came to me because you want help. Let me show you how we do this. It's a
Yeah,
difficult combo.
no, that's a good point. And I always say, the first thing I think every MSP needs to scale is the ability to sell, and the second one is the ability to say no. And
Yes.
and you can't do it without that. Yeah, that's a really good point, Brian. All right, last question for me, and then we'll do some audience Q&A. I did want to talk for a minute about MDR. Thinking back to when I was running my MSP, I had to bring people on, like actual humans, at a much higher rate than my technician rate. And they had to have, serious security chops. I didn't have that knowledge. I'm not a security expert by any means. So I had to acquire that knowledge by putting those people on my payroll. And that shit was expensive. By the time I sold my MSP, MDR and SOC services were really just like starting to emerge in the space for MSPs that were more like focused on SMB. That would have been absolutely game changing for my business specifically. And if I could have reallocated those security resources to more technicians, I could have landed more contracts, generated more revenue. I would have killed to be able to do that. So what I've been seeing lately is a lot of MSPs they're just now starting to like really hit that level of scale and really define their stack as they're doing it. And they all have security top of mind, but they do see that like higher per endpoint price point with MDR, and they're still viewing it as more of like a cost, not necessarily a means to scale, because they're not paying for that security staff yet. So what would you say to those folks who are still stuck a little bit in that mindset about, it's much more of an opportunity to scale MDR that it really brings to the table. It's much less of a cost per endpoint.
Absolutely. So speaking from experience, someone who has gone through and built out a SOC, it is insanely expensive. It is incredibly difficult. Like Alan talked about this a little bit. Like the people that you need to do it right, um, they work for like 3-letter agencies. Like these people are difficult to find. You're not going to find them on LinkedIn. Those guys are not sending their resumes to Indeed. Um, so
Yeah, right.
so it is a very difficult thing to find those people, when you do find those people, they are incredibly expensive. So here's the chicken and the egg, and I'll tell you this. This is a conversation we have all the time. So I know what it's like to be an MSP. Most MSPs have point-in-time contracts. So I brought customer A on in February. They have my, essentials package or whatever I'm selling them as an MSP. And now I go like, man, MDR. Okay, that's an extra, whatever, $2-3 a month, depending on what the structure is and how you're built. Man, that's just extra cost. So how do I go convince my customer, to spend extra money? That's a hard conversation to have, especially when, let's all be honest with ourselves, the customer probably thinks we're doing that anyways.
Yeah, they don't care if you're paying for it.
They
Yeah, they
don't
just assume
care.
it's done. Yeah, right.
They think we're watching them.
Yeah.
Unless you've given them a contract that says, hey, after 5 o'clock we shut off. Like then it's true, it's hard. So what I'll say is this. Think about it from an investment standpoint. Think about it from that staffing standpoint, like you talked about, Andy, is okay, what does it take for me to hire people to manage 100 endpoints, 300 endpoints, 500 endpoints? I promise you the cost of MDR is cheaper any day of the week. The quality of people that you get is much higher. And in fairness, you kind of pass some of that liability over. You're like, hey, I can go to sleep tonight. I know that at 3 a.m, if ransomware hits over there, someone else is going to remediate it. There's a huge peace of mind. And then I think when your customers' contracts come around, what you can do is you're not saying, hey, remember that thing I said I was doing before that I kind of wasn't fully doing 24/7, now I'm doing it? No, the approach is, hey, we've advanced and brought some new features into our stack. Here's some of the cool things we're doing around technology as it evolves. So because of that, we've brought our rates up a little bit, but here's some of the additional protections and things you're going to get from that. So it's positioning. MSP sales is difficult. And so it's how you position, it's how you talk to your customer. And bring that to the fold. But that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, thanks, Brian. That's a good point. Okay. Like I mentioned before, guys, if you have questions, I'm pulling them out of the Q&A, so please don't put them in the chat because we tend to miss those at times. So a couple questions actually around the EDR, the backup piece, and they're asking, basically everybody's asking, where is it being backed up?
Sure. So the way that it works, and I'm going to go a little bit technical here because I think everybody on the call might be technical, which is good. The way that it works is we have got our own database that we run on the endpoint itself. Within that database, we will then back up to the local machine. Of course, what we do is we go through making sure that it's secure and encrypted so that it can't get encrypted. So we don't, the worst thing we want to do is get ransomed on our backup, right?
You mean it's not shadow copy?
No, it's definitely not shadow copy. Yeah, we don't use tools like shadow copy or any sort of other tools to try and back things up. We've got our own technology that backs up the files. Of course, it's all compressed, so we try and minimize the disk space that is utilized on that. And it is a configuration of how much disk space you have to use. So for example, the configuration, you can go in, you can say, I want to use 30% of my free disk space, etc. And that determines also how long you want to keep it for. So you've also got the ability to say, I want to keep it for 3 days, 4 days, up to 7 days of that. But it's our own secure backup in a database format on the endpoint itself. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think so. Yeah, if anybody's going to follow us on that specifically, let me know. A couple of questions about cost. I did see a lot of folks hopped in late when we covered that up front. So in terms of pricing, all of that can be found in your guys' Syncro instances. So just head over to the App Center. There's a ThreatDown app card. Every SKU is broken down there.
If you want, I can answer some of that. So there's a lot. I see a lot on DNS in there.
Yeah, I was just gonna
that's kind of popped up.
Ask one question for all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. So one of the ones was so DNS cannot be bought a la carte, like by itself. it does need to be added onto the agent functionally to work. What I'll also say, and like I know most vendors wouldn't do this, but I'll be fair, we're not like most vendors. Our DNS is on the higher end of pricing. Um, we are working on some new things to bring that pricing down. Syncro does have really, really great pricing that they've shared with you guys. So we are trying our best to be competitive. I will say the consolidation of having your DNS, your policies, and those things built into one place definitely is an advantage for an MSP, but I'll 100% acknowledge that our cost on DNS is a bit higher and we're working to pull that down. So I will, like I said, openly just acknowledge that there, but we're working to make it better. I do think we've given something competitive to Syncro that we can do our best with, but know that in the near future that could be something that comes down and changes. And if we're able to adjust that, we would share that across and let everyone know.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, Brian. There's not a day that goes by, I mean, where I'm not trying to beat up Brian. I'm, for better pricing. So like, if we get better pricing on these things, we will just pass that along. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's how we'll operate. I think we got two other questions here I want to answer, and I think we can call it, guys. We're almost at the top of the hour. This is a really good question. I feel like it's a good probing question, just so folks kind of generally understand what to expect. They're asking, what are the most common requests received by ThreatDown support? Because that's kind of the first thing I'd want to know too, is like, people are asking these questions all the time. What are they? What kind of problems are they running into?
That's a good question. So you would think like a lot of times it's navigation or stuff like that, but I would say our onboarding's pretty good in our dashboard. Like the comments we get back are that it is easy to navigate. I'll be fair, like a lot of the tier one stuff that we see is it's basic stuff. It's like, hey, I'm locked out of my console. I'm trying to reset passwords. I'm trying to like, you'd be surprised how much tier one stuff exists in there. Alan, any commentary on the like kind of the support side there?
Yeah, it's. I'll be honest with you. It's difficult to say because and I'm not going to dumb down. Like there has been issues with product, right? As any software that's out there, you might find that there is a bug, and for example, uh, uh, you've deployed the agent. It's everything's set up, but something's not working as it should. Yeah, that's what we see that like happen in certain areas. It's not that regular, but when you do see that, we're on that straight away. We're able to, I mean, I'll give an example. This was this morning, and this was UK morning. So it was while a lot of you were probably sleeping, but there was an issue with the console where there was a bug. One of the buttons weren't working, right? It was reported, I think it was about 10 a.m. this morning. By 12 o'clock, a bug fix was released and fixed and sorted out. Those are stuff that happen, I would say, when I say a regular basis, it's the small bits and bobs that happen like that. But like what Brian said is you'd be surprised how many support cases we get for I can't log into my console. And have you tried your password? Yes, I've tried my password. And then you go in and they've got the shift key or the caps lock maybe switched on. You do unfortunately get those
That's the
quite a
bulk of the
lot.
worst of what you're saying. That's good for you guys. All right. Well, one last quick question, and this might be a little bit philosophical, Brian. Probably better for you.
Sure.
How they're asking basically, how would you recommend that? I think that they're saying they, but I assume really just MSPs in general would position themselves when using ThreatDown against like larger MSSPs who, in some cases, kind of try to step on top of MSPs by dogging them in certain circumstances. I mean, I've seen that a lot where it's like, I'm an MSSP, they don't know what they're doing security wise. What is a good counter to that? Like, what's the best approach if you have an MSSP trying to step on your toes, even with an existing customer or even a new prospect that you're kind of competing for?
Sure. I think this is actually the place where like MDR is the most prevalent because that MSSP is going to come out and say, hey, I have a SOC, I have security people watching you 24/7. We're doing all of these super cool things. Now, granted, their price is going to be higher, like, of course, but what they're selling the customer on is like, we're so much better. Well, if you can go in and say, great, we have like next gen, like enhanced detection response, and we have people watching you 24/7, not just in the back of our room, but globally from a large company managing all of this for you. They're in there, they're remediating, they're doing this. Like, I think it gives you a leg up because A, you're going to be able to do it well, and B, you're going to be able to do it in fairness for cheaper than those MSSPs are. I've seen the pricing. I work with these people on a daily basis. I run into it all the time. Their pricing is much higher. If you see an MSSP that says they're running a SOC and they're selling cheaper than you, then what I would say is this: let that person go there, and I promise you they'll call you back in 3 months after
That's a
after
good
their
point.
stuff's been breached.
Well, Brian, Brian Allen, thank you guys so much for your time. This was awesome. For folks on the call, we did see a couple questions about, is this recorded? It is. Everybody on the call will get a recording of this after the fact. Like the slide says there, if you're new to ThreatDown, you can spin up a new account right in the App Center. If you're already using ThreatDown, that's the email that you guys can send, which is also in the App Center. If you're looking to migrate your account over to us. Phase 2 of the integration, like we talked about, is coming late this year, early next year. That'll be the provisioning and the deployment, or excuse me, the deployments and the alerting. And then, yeah, we're just going to keep building it out from there and building better relationship with ThreatDown. And again, guys, thank you very much. Really excited for this. And thanks everybody for showing up today.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
everyone. Thanks,
Thank you,
Andy.
everyone.
Thanks, team.
Bye.